Hi, this is Brad with Baker County Trash Pickup. If this is your first time watching, my wife and I started a weekly residential trash pickup company when Waste Management exited our county. This video is part of an extensive playlist that covers the very beginning of the business all the way to current and future endeavors in it as well. I don't think there's too much that you haven't seen going on in today's video, so right off the bat, we're going to focus on a couple of comments from last week's video. This is a gentleman who I've corresponded with a few times on some Ventrac owner groups. I'm subscribed to his channel, so I know this guy's not trying to be mean. He says, "We've spoke before and I'm a pretty big fan of yours." I'm a fan of yours as well, sir. However, I can't help but notice a trend in the trash videos where the majority of your commentary is talking about why you can't do this, can't do that, answering this negative comment, answering that negative comment. I think you either need to continue to embrace your current setup or switch gears and make a move to make yourself more productive and more importantly, profitable. I love your determination in the content, but this trash series definitely doesn't showcase your can-do attitude as well as it has in the past, at least when listening to your commentary. So a lot to unpack in this, but I do think some very good points worth discussing. I thought that I was making clear statements of when I don't want to do something or I'm not willing to do something versus can't, but looking back, I can't guarantee that. So there may be times when I have said I can't do something and that was not accurate. I think one of the things he may be talking about was the Propactor compactor trailer. Because of the fact that it has a 16,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating, that would mean I'm over the limit for folks who need a commercial driver's license. So I may have said because of that, I can't get the Propactor trailer. One of the reasons I said that I wasn't looking at auctions for trucks is because a lot of the garbage trucks on auction sites are trucks that are big enough that they need a CDL, and I'm not going to get a CDL, so I can't do that. Those are the kind of things I'm thinking he's talking about. Fair comment, my fault for not making it super clear. I don't want to repeat myself in every video, so I think sometimes I gloss over things, but if you're only listening to the episodes where I gloss over them, you're not going to know the reasons behind it. So the focus of this video will be to answer some of the common questions that I'm going to get and put it in the title so that I'll have something to refer back to if these questions come up in the future. If there is ever something I've said I'm not going to do or I can't do on this trash endeavor, I believe there's usually been several reasons why. Like for the Propactor trailer, it was the price, it was the CDL, it was the fact that it was a lot of money for something that really kind of kicked the can down the road but didn't solve my growth problems. So the idea that just fixing one of those problems would make the idea work isn't really accurate, which is another reason why I don't focus on spending a ton of time on every single reason something won't work. I just say, I can't do that or it won't work, and I move on. But let's focus on the CDL, a commercial driver's license. That has come up a lot. Some folks say, why don't you just get a CDL and stop complaining? It's not a big deal. And a lot of folks don't even know what getting a CDL entails. So these are the following reasons why I don't want a CDL and I will not get a CDL. And if I ever say I can't do something because I need a CDL, these are the reasons behind that statement. The closest college to me, which is about an hour drive away, that has a commercial vehicle driving program, requires 320 clock hours over 11 weeks of instruction with a price tag all in for tuition of around $3,300. Any one of those points is enough for me to say no. I don't have the time to commit to that. And right now, I'd rather spend that $3,300 in the business. Now, the time and money required aside, let's look at what getting a CDL would actually allow me to do. It would allow me to look at auction sites for used trash trucks that are over that limit where you need a commercial driver's license. But does that solve all the other issues I've mentioned in past videos about why I am leery of going the auction route? Specifically, you are buying a used truck with no idea what's wrong with it, what condition it's in, how it was ran before. In fact, you can almost guarantee if it's on an auction site that it has outlived whatever useful life the seller has apportioned to it, and now you're getting the leftovers. That's fine for people who know about diesels, who know how to fix things, who have the time on their hand or the tools or the shop space to do that. I don't have many of those things, so I'm going to steer away from those kind of trucks and instead look at much less used or even new vehicles as an option. The other thing is if I get a CDL, I'm going to have to get a much bigger truck that costs much more money and requires much more maintenance. And remember too, I'm running all this stuff from my house and space is an issue. A CDL truck is quite simply going to be bigger, wider, longer. And when you're looking at my available parking space, that's a factor I have to consider as well. Now let's go one step further. Let's say time and money weren't an issue. Let's say I could get a brand new CDL truck. Somehow I'd come up with the $300,000 a CDL truck might cost. What would that truck allow me to do right now that a smaller truck would not let me do? And the answer is not much. As long as I have some way to automate the trash pickup and eliminate the manual labor, the only thing a larger CDL truck will let me do is make less trips to the landfill. The next question is, does that matter? Am I at a point in my business where multiple trips to the landfill are lowering my productivity to a point where an investment in a larger CDL truck makes sense? And the answer there is no. So that's 5 minutes on why I don't want or need a CDL. It is not good watching to repeat that every single video. So if moving forward in the future you hear me say I can't do something or I don't want to do something, feel free to ask why. But if you wouldn't mind, just give me the benefit of the doubt that it's something I've probably thought about or talked about before. And there may be some reasons why that you haven't thought about or heard me expound on yet. But again, if you've never heard me articulate that, it's not your fault for wondering. So that's why I say, feel free to ask. I love these kind of questions. The next part of the comment talked about answering negative comments. I don't think I've done that over the last few weeks. I've tried to make sure I watch my tone and that the comments that bring up questions are ones that generally aren't just trying to be mean. Sometimes those can be pretty funny and they can also show how little people know about business when they feel like they can comment on it. And I think that's important for people to know too. But either way, those are both things I will pay attention to moving forward, making sure that the language I choose is much less passive, saying I won't do this or I'm not going to do this rather than I can't do this. The next comment is a reply to that one. It's a gentleman who agreed with him. He says it's very discouraging for anyone who is potentially interested in this type of endeavor. Definitely when he expresses how he has no intentions of expanding, which is oddly strange because it's a waste disposal business in a county with very few options for such services. It's just a matter of time until he gets flooded with work and will begin turning down profit. But why not provide jobs for the community and help your neighbors, all while making a profit? 3 birds, 1 stone. He may be better off doing dumpster rentals at this point. And again, this isn't a gentleman who's trying to be mean. These are his genuine thoughts, and I appreciate the comment. Let's take this in 2 separate parts. The first part he's talking about is statements I've made in my videos where I've elaborated that my goal is to build this business to something that I can run a few days a week, pay all my bills, have a little saved up at the end of the day, and that's it. I don't want to build this into something that is a 5-day-a-week thing. I don't want to build it into something that I need employees to run. The main reason for that is because the most important thing to me is my family and spending as much time as I can with them. And there's also some volunteer work that I do sometimes that can require a weekday that can be blocked off. So I don't want to fill my week with work. This is something that depends on each individual person to figure out for themselves. I don't think you should find it discouraging that Brad Bear in McClenny, Florida doesn't want to grow a big business. I don't see how that should have any impact on you taking the information I'm giving you, learning from the experience, and putting it to work in your own trash pickup business. And I think this last sentence in this part where it says it's just a matter of time until he gets flooded with work and begins turning down profit. Yes, absolutely. I will turn down work if it doesn't match up with the priorities and goals that I've set in my life, which again is paying the bills, saving a little bit extra, and everything past that is time that I want to spend at home with my family. In the fall, when it's not so hot, we like doing camping trips. I like leaving my week open for those kind of things. And money is not the motivating factor for me. I turn down probably 95% of the quotes that I am asked to do because they don't line up with the type of business I've aimed to run, which is small yards that I can do as a solo operator in a very small service area, so I'm not wasting a lot of time inefficiently driving around. Those are not things that someone does if they care about growing a business or making as much money as possible. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that's how Brad, me, wants to run this business, how he has ran his, I don't know why I'm talking about myself in the third person. That's why I've ran my businesses the way that I have. I really don't feel like you should be discouraged because I don't want employees for myself. That doesn't have any bearing on you growing your own business and hiring employees. Now, the follow-up to that, this is a lot less personal opinion, what's right for you, and I think just kind of ignorance of what all goes into having employees. The second part is, why not provide jobs for the community and help your neighbors, all while making a profit? And I think this is in reference to the fact that I said I don't want employees. I don't feel like it's my responsibility to provide jobs for the community, that type of thing. And right off the bat, I want to clarify that no matter how callous it sounds, it truly is not my responsibility to create jobs for the community. Just like it's not your responsibility to create jobs for the community as you watching this. The only responsibilities I have that I need to worry about are to my wife and kids, and that's what's going to come first. When you think about what it would take to have an employee, there are so many things that would add to my plate that wouldn't bring me any benefit and would only bring me headache. I would have to get workers' comp insurance, which is going to mean I need a lot more work because I'm going to have to pay for that. I would need to set up a payroll system, and that's going to cost money. I would need to purchase extra uniforms and boots for people because I'm going to have a very specific look that employees need to match. I'm going to have to figure out how I go about hiring people and firing people. I'm going to have to develop scheduling software because now if I've got enough work that I rely on an employee to do it, if he calls out, then what? So I'm probably going to have more than one employee so I can have somebody who's a backup. If all those individuals call out, then I'm really stuck. Right now, I get to work with my wife. She drives the truck. Now, at the point in time I'm recording this voiceover, we have purchased a garbage truck. You haven't seen any videos on it yet. But my wife is driving that truck, and I am running the trash. If I get an employee, that means I'm not going to get to spend all day with my wife. Why would I want that? If I have it set up where I can spend all day with my wife, and by the way, I don't have to pay for that privilege because she's not an employee, she's my wife, versus now having to hire an employee and I have to spend all day with that person, that's no good. You get the issues that come from employees where they don't value your equipment the way that you do. They don't treat it the same. But the biggest thing about taking on an employee, and I mentioned this in last week's video, but he didn't touch on it here on this comment, but if I'm generating jobs and my goal really is to support people in the community, to give them a living wage, I'm going to have to grow this business so much more than I want to. It's going to have to be something where I can give somebody 40 hours a week. There may need to be benefits to attract the kind of candidates I want because honestly, who is going to want to do garbage pickup for minimum wage? So the idea that somebody needs to create jobs for the community to have value, I think is not the greatest logic point. And that's the very long answer to the question, why not provide jobs for the community and help your neighbors? The short answer is because of all the extra work and time that's going to come into that. I'm not willing to sacrifice that time and attention from my family and my other endeavors in order to do that. It's not going to be good for me and it's not going to make me happy. The last comment there, he may be better off doing dumpster rentals at this point. I think I mentioned specifically in that last video why I don't want to do dumpster rentals. He probably just skipped around the video and didn't watch the whole thing, so didn't hear. My long-term vision for this business, and I still don't know if this is feasible or reasonable, but you better believe every single week I'm going to update you so you'll know one way or the other, is that I want a business that puts much less physical strain and wear and tear on my body over a day of work than lawn care does right now. The start of this mowing season has been the first one where I've been working sun up till pretty much sundown doing maintenance mowing. And I gotta tell you, it's really terrible, especially in this July, August, September heat. It's miserable. And when I look at if all my other part-time stuff went away, the YouTube, the stormwater management, if I didn't have those things, land management, and I just had to make a living on mowing, I'm going to grind my body into nothing very quickly. A lot of comments when I started this trash business were saying, wow, why in the world would you want to do that? Why would you want to be a trash man? That's not an easy job. I will argue that being a trash man, to me, in my opinion, is easier than mowing lawns all day long. The other component aside from the physical aspect is the mental aspect. I want a job that's going to be really easy. I want to make a living doing something that is very easily repeatable and doesn't take a lot of variation or thinking or anything like that. So with project work, there is driving out to the customer's house, looking at the project, quoting it, estimating it. With dumpster rentals, there's a lot of that. I have to figure out where's this person's property at? How long is it going to take to drive there? How much fuel is it going to take? What are the odds I get stuck pulling in or driving out or anything like that? I've got to coordinate all the logistics of today this dumpster is going here, but I need it back this day for this time frame. That doesn't match up with the kind of work I want. I want to set something up where I know exactly who I'm visiting every single week. It's exactly the same every single week. I know for a fact I'm not going to get stuck because I know I only service hard roads and I never have to go off to any crazy construction site or anything like that. But one of the bigger reasons why I'm not going to do dumpster rentals is, again, the space that I have. Anybody who gets real big into dumpster rentals almost always needs some shop space or needs to buy some piece of land so they can store those dumpsters there because they take up a lot of space. And I simply don't have that. Even if space wasn't an issue, and let's say I lived on 5 acres and I could do whatever I want, I don't want to do dumpster rentals because of all the other things that I just mentioned, plus about a dozen more that are too boring to get into. But again, if you can, just assume that if I'm saying I'm not doing something, there's reasoning and thought behind it that is multifaceted and I've thought about for many hours over the last few months. And if not, I'll be happy to say in a comment, wow, I never thought about that before. That's a great point. This is a good follow-up question on that topic. DJ Quackers, gotta love the name. And I really appreciate the questions you leave, DJ Quickety Quack. He says, you mentioned you don't want employees, so how large do you actually want to grow this business? Assuming you want all 200 cans out, that should take a whole day. Do you want more than 200 cans? This is another good question that I don't have enough data to answer yet. Here's where my thinking is leading me though, the things I've experienced up to this point. I have built a route. It's been taking about 3.5 hours, barring any, weird traffics or hurricanes or anything like that. It's been taking about 3.5 hours over the past month and a half, even though my can count has continued to increase. What that means is if I am adding people where I already have cans on the same street, on one street over, that really only adds 1 or 2 minutes for each person. So if I have a 3.5 hour route with 50 cans out, and I can put the last 150 cans I have right next to those other cans, that'll add about 150, 200 minutes, which is what? 3 hours, 3.5 hours. So then I'd be like at 7 hours. One thing that I'm hoping is that I will shave some time off of that original 3.5 hours with the garbage truck. Maybe I can get it down to 3 hours because I've found that the cans take about a minute now with the garbage truck instead of 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes doing it manually with liners. And the other good thing that the truck is going to do is it's going to eliminate those outliers that really kill my time. Once or twice every single week, I will have 1 can or 2 cans or 3 stops that are just a nightmare because they're so full and so heavy. And that one might take me 8 minutes. So with the garbage truck, that'll be down to 1 minute, right? So that's 7 customers I can service in that time frame that I bought back. Again, I'm just throwing numbers out because I don't really know. But I'm thinking that the 200 cans, yes, it probably will take a full day. I think it'll definitely take 2 trips to the landfill. That's going to be an extra 40 minutes or so into the day. So I think a 7 to 8 to 9 hour day is not out of the question for having 200 cans. I just don't know yet. I do know I would really like this to grow to not only replace my lawn care income so I don't have to do that anymore, but grow to the point where I can save some money for future expenses as well. I think the math that I've done, if I can get 120 cans out, then I'll be able to pay all of my expenses and hit some savings goals for the business as well. Everything after that will be pure profit that I can use to start paying down the garbage truck or just set aside. I believe once I have 150 cans on the street, I'll have enough information to know what direction to take the company. One way or the other, I do believe that another 200 cans is going to be ordered now that I have the garbage truck. One of the questions was, do I just do the 200 cans I have with the dump trailer this week, next week? I'll find out. I'm not interested in doing that. It would mean 4 trips to the landfill to get that done, and it's just going to take forever. So now that I have committed to a truck, I'm fairly certain 400 is going to be the smallest, and hopefully I can do that in 2 days. We will see though. If I have 400 cans and it does take 2 days, that's when I would start thinking about a CDL, because I can't really get that much of a bigger truck without risking overloading it. There might be some 10-yard trucks that would fit on an under CDL truck. I don't know for sure, but if I am going to get a new truck, does it make sense to get one that's just 2 yards larger, or does it make sense to get a commercial driver's license, deal with those other issues I talked about now because the business is at a stage where it makes sense, and get something that is 18, 20, 22 yards. Those are all things to worry about down the road. I don't have the answers to them now. We're about 2/3 of the way done. There was a lot of big heavy stuff. I mean, not heavy, sorry. Just a lot of big stuff this week, which means the front of that trailer is really full, and I've lost most of my space to throw things. I've got a little bit more here and up front, but this is after 21 visits, 28 total. So we've still got 7, about 1/3. But I think I'm gonna have to dump it at some point, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it now. And that should give us a little bit more space. Hey, look, I got a little buddy. It's like Wally. So it did open up the front, and it didn't do much for the back. I might have to still play around with moving some of those bags. Over here, it did pretty good. There's a lot of space over here, but didn't do quite as good as I hoped. So that may not be as useful long-term as I had hoped, but we'll see. A great question about a possible garbage truck. Well, I guess I can stop saying possible because I just told you I bought it. A question about the garbage truck versus the dump trailer. This gentleman says, I believe you stated the dump trailer is 14 yards and the garbage truck is 18 yards. Depending upon the compaction limits of the garbage, would the garbage truck hold the equivalent of 16, 20, or more yards of uncompacted garbage? Excellent question, and this is one of the kind of confusing things as I was learning about garbage trucks that there is, but it's pretty simple, so let's explain it. First of all, the way that I came up with the dump trailer holding 14 yards is just a volume calculation, which if you remember from your school days, if you're doing a 3-dimensional rectangular shape, is length times width times height. So if you have a 10-foot tall box that's 10 feet wide and 10 feet long, 10 times 10 is 100 times 10 is 1,000, it will hold 1,000 cubic feet. From that cubic foot measurement, you divide by 27 because there are 27 cubic feet in 1 yard. That comes up with 37 yards for that made up shape we have. Now, when I have a 7-foot wide trailer by 14 feet long with 4-foot sides, that's 392 cubic feet divided by 27 is 14.5 cubic yards. The garbage truck that I showed you guys a week or two ago holds 8 cubic yards. Based on just that information, it is fair to say that the garbage truck holds almost half as much as the dump trailer. The dump trailer holds twice as much, almost, of the garbage truck. And that is correct, except for the fact, the huge fact, that the garbage truck compacts or smushes the trash as it goes. So now the question is, how do we quantify how much it can pack? What value do we assign to its smushing capabilities? That's the technical term too. My truck has a smush factor of 7.6. No, I'm just kidding. Compaction rates for garbage trucks are done in hundreds of pounds per yard. The compaction rate of the truck that I'm looking at is between 700 and 800 pounds per yard. That depends on factors like what is the trash made up of. But generally speaking, if the truck compacts 700 to 800 pounds in a yard and it can hold 8 yards, then you just multiply that compaction rate in pounds by the yards. So if I say, well, let me be better safe than sorry and say it can only compact 700 pounds in a yard. It's an 8-yard machine, so that holds 5,600 pounds. I cannot give you an equivalent to what the dump trailer would have held because it doesn't compact anything. What I can tell you is that the last time I used the dump trailer, which I believe is week 10, which is going to be next week's video, it was right after a hurricane that flipped lids open and rained in the trash cans. So all of the trash was soaking wet, which meant it was a lot heavier. Even if you drain the water off, everything is waterlogged, which makes it much heavier. That was close to 50 trash cans, and it was something like 2,400 pounds. All right, so this is stupid, but I wanted to stop real quick and show you guys this. This is the dirt road that I dropped some people on a few months ago. Take a look at this. Everybody was like, oh, just get a 4-wheel drive truck, or, you know, somebody said, leave the trailer on the road and just go down it with the truck. No, I'm not. You can I'll zoom in on that, but this is terrible. This is what I would have had to be trying to get through, pulling 4,400 pounds of trailer, and probably at this point it's been a pretty heavy day, so I think I probably got 1,200 pounds of trash. But my poor truck, it would not have made it. So I feel really good about the decision to not service this road. I think the week after we added a couple more stops, but we were only at like 1,800 pounds because everything hadn't been rained on. So I say all that to try and get across that I can't give you an exact ratio because so much of it depends on how much the garbage weighs and what it's made up of. Maybe as I get more experience with the truck and more data on the garbage truck, I'll be able to speak a little bit more intelligently on the topic. But for now, that's kind of the best I can do. One last way that I might try and think to put it, maybe you say the garbage truck can hold something like 2 to 3 times as much depending on the weight. A lot of it is more about the weight than the volume. But great question on the comparison between a dump trailer and a garbage truck. Famous Amos asks what happens once the trailer gets full. Does the route get split? What is it going to be like? I don't think it's an issue now that I have the garbage truck, but this question was for when I had the dump trailer, and it's a very practical question. The goal was that I was just going to have to start incorporating multiple trips to the landfill. So if I had, let's say I got to 70 cans, that's probably more than would fit on the dump trailer. I'm not going to do that over 2 days. The way I have this schedule is a giant loop. If I have 15 cans at the end of that loop, it doesn't make sense to go to the landfill, go home, and do it on another day. I would go to the landfill, then go back to where the stopping point on the loop was, finish the loop, and then go back to the landfill a second time. I can do that as well because my day is not full yet. Let's just say that's a 4-hour day for that many cans. I don't have to worry about leaving some folks to the next day because there's still plenty of daylight to burn. All right, folks, that's the end of the route. That was 28 stops today. 1 or 2 people didn't put trash cans out. The rest of them had a lot of trash. There were obviously a couple people who didn't have much, but I think this puppy's pretty full. I think the next step, you can see all that. I think the next step is building up the sides a little bit because there's extra slack in that tarp, which means the tarp can go higher and still cover all that stuff. You know, if I just build up those sides taller and bungee them, that'll be fine. The only issue I'll also have to figure out how to build something taller for, well, I guess I won't, because I can't build something taller for there because the tarp's still gonna, I don't know, I got to figure that out. But what I'm saying is, if I can't get much more than 30 stops in, as you can tell, it's pretty full. I think I did a good job using the space I had, and tilting it back didn't help that much. I think instead of tilting it when it's completely full, I'll have to tilt it more stops during the run. I don't know. But I think building the sides up is the next thing, because you can see I've got a couple of winds of tarp where I could probably bump it up, you know, a foot or so. But that'll let me fit another whatever bags. So that's that route, and now we'll head to the landfill. Now here's a really good comment. When I do get a truck, I should keep the trailer in case the truck breaks down. And that was what I thought at the very beginning too. I'll keep it as a backup. But the more I thought about it, the less sense I think that makes. Let's say I get to a point where I have 200 cans out. If my truck goes down and my trailer holds roughly 50 cans, does it make sense to try and service those 200 cans over, let's say, 2 days? Or does it make sense to just spend one day trying to fix the truck, or if it's unfixable, going and getting a rental to service those people and then just have it out of the way for the rest of the week? And I think I would probably lean toward that direction. Even if that wasn't the case, there are several rental companies near me that have 7x14 by 4 foot dump trailers that I could rent for about $300 a day. And right now the trailer payment is $830 a month. So if I'm only going to use it when there's some breakdown, does it make sense to try and sell it, get out of that $800 payment? Or if I do need one, does it make more sense just to rent one at $300 a day for a day or two until the route gets done? The only negative is that then I wouldn't have access to that dump trailer that I currently own for my lawn care, stormwater management work. But the truth is, in the months that I've owned that thing, I haven't been able to use it at all for the lawn care work because I haven't had any jobs for it. So I don't think that'll be as big an issue as I think it is. And I'm leaning towards trying to sell the trailer just for the space in the driveway, for the sake of not having something else to insure, for the sake of not having another piece of equipment I've got to worry about and maintain and all that stuff. These guys expanded, and this is I mean, I don't know anything about waste management, so I don't have any right to say if it's good or bad, but this is a new section. This guy here is stuck. It's extremely muddy. I'm sure you guys saw coming up. All in front of this guy is dirt, mud. So I can't go in front of him. I gotta wait for one of these two to pull off. But it's ridiculous. Here's this guy, he's trying to get out, he's stuck. All this is like a mulch. It's all tree material. I mean, I guess it's better than mud, but it rained a lot here recently as well. So this is kind of a crazy little spot. It's gonna be a while before I can go, so I'm just gonna set you up so you guys can watch them. I think my cameras are starting to short out because of the heat. They keep shutting off, but I think they just wanted me to get out of the way so they could make more room there. And the ever popular question, what's going to happen if your back goes out for 6 to 8 weeks since you don't want employees? I covered this in another video as well. I realized that running this business with myself doing the work is a risk. It's a risk I'm completely willing to take. It's not dissimilar to the risk that I've had the past 7 years doing this lawn care business by myself. If there's ever an injury that puts me out of commission, I'll have to figure it out then. If there were something where my back truly went out for 6 to 8 weeks, I don't know what I'd do. It would probably involve relying a whole lot on my wife to run the operation. But what I also said in that other video is I am not willing to take on employees just to cover some potential thing that may never happen, because the risk of me injuring myself and having to scramble to find something out, the odds of that happening and the risk that it carries, I'm more willing to deal with that and roll the dice on that than take in all the things I just talked about having employees and dealing with somebody that I may not get along with, having to build the business bigger than I want it to, just so I can support this other employee. The short answer is I don't know. If it happens, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but I'll never use, something bad might happen. I'm never going to use that as a reason to say, well, okay, I'll go ahead and get employees then. With this garbage truck too, the odds that something does happen to me, I believe has gone down considerably, especially in regards to something like throwing a back out, right? Because I'm not going to be tossing trash anymore. The most physical I'm going to get with the truck, assuming nothing crazy happens, is pushing the can to the tipper arm. And I'm no Hulk or bodybuilder, but I think I can manage that. Would I ever offer 65 or 32 gallon carts instead of it all being 96s? No, because again, I want a business that is as simple and streamlined as possible. That means offering as few services as possible, and I think I can get away with that because everybody needs trash service. There is no need for me currently to diversify into different size cans or things like recycling, because there is enough work for garbage cans on 96 gallons that I'm fairly certain I can max out my productivity just focusing on that. Then I won't have to worry about, well, let me get 164s, 132s. I need spare parts for those, so let me get an extra 10 of each in case of breakages. It just, the less inventory I have to stock, the simpler the business is, the less options there are, the easier it is to onboard customers, because I can just say, hey, $36 a month, 96 gallon can. No, that's the only size we have. If you feel like that is foolish, what I would remind you of again is everybody who runs a business has got to run that business according to their values. My values are simplicity, eliminating any potential headaches along the way, and the way I see that in this trash business is making things as simple as possible. Along the way, I'm sure I'll make some changes. I don't think that's going to be one of them. I mean, I jumped into a garbage truck a lot sooner than I said originally, so maybe that's something that will change in the future. I don't think it will be, though. In response to me saying I don't want to do something that's going to need to be 5 days a week, Xander says trash pickup isn't going to work then. You need to do ground clearing or excavating. Those are much higher paying jobs. I don't believe that's true. Again, I could be missing something, but when you run the numbers, if I have 200 cans out and I'm averaging $8 a can, that's $1,600 a week, $6,400 a month, $76,000 a year. Now, okay, so you've got business expenses and taxes that are going to eat into some of that. As a family, we live relatively simple. We don't need much more than that to pay all our bills. If you bump that up to 400 cans, well, now we're looking at 153 grand a year. Now, of course, I'll have maintenance costs. I'll have costs for insurance and saving for a new truck. But my point is, if we can run this for a couple years where we aren't taking any money out, when I do need this to support our family fully, or if I need it to support our family fully, it's something that could be making 6 figures a year easily at maybe just 2 days a week. I don't think anybody's going to be able to do that in ground clearing or excavating. And again, with ground clearing and excavating, you run into a lot of those headaches I had talked about that I want to get away from, having to go visit project sites, spend time estimating. Maybe you got it right and made a lot of money. Maybe you didn't get it right and you lost a lot of money. Those are headaches I'm not going to have with the trash business because it's just picking up a can right next to somebody I already pick it up for. Well, folks, I really appreciate the questions that you've given. If you've got any more or comments, please leave them down below. Next week is the hurricane week, so you're going to see me not only collecting in the rain, but also the aftermath of trash cans being flooded. And then the week after that will be our first week with the garbage truck. Between now and then, there may be a video where I go over the new garbage truck. I'm currently waiting for a design company to get a wrap design where they basically cover the cab in a giant sticker. I think I want that completed before I make a video on it, but we'll see. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.